Hi guys, Mrs. Angel here. So today we're going to be making folk art trees. And folk art is important because folk artists are generally self-taught or learn their skills through doing some sort of apprenticeship or watching someone. And again, it's not perfect. It's kind of fun and whimsical. And so today we're going to be making some trees that look just like that. So the first thing you're going to need is a piece of paper. You eventually will need, you're going to probably want to start with a pencil first. Again, I always start with the Sharpie because it's easier for you to see. And then you will need a marker that is permanent and possibly some markers with water or some watercolor paint. So I'm going to start by doing 4 different types of tree trunks. And you just start by making a line. And it doesn't want to be perfectly straight because it's a tree trunk. And then I might go over it a little bit and pull it down, make it a little bit thicker. And then kind of come down at the bottom. And again, if you draw with pencil first, that's wonderful because if you make any mistakes, you can erase it. My next one is going to be tall and skinny. So I'm going to kind of start at the top and kind of come down. But then what I might do is I might start about halfway and just run a double line kind of. But I'm not going to go all the way to the top just yet. My next one is going to be a little bit thicker, and my marker is not the pointiest right now, and that's okay. So I'm going to make one that's a little more wiggly and a little more thick. And bump it out because again, all trees are different widths, the trunks. And I'm just going to shade that in. But again, with pencil, you don't want to color it in. You just want to draw the outline. And then you can use the black marker to fill it in later. And I'm going to do another one. This is going to be a little bit different. So I'm going to make sure I'm just trying to use the tip of my marker as best I can. And this one might go up just a little bit higher. This one's going to be thicker. And I'm going to add little lines in there for bark. So again, little tiny lines, not like a ruler. You're just kind of adding some random lines. So next we're going to do the branches. And I find it's easier because of the way I draw to flip my paper upside down and to make these lines that kind of like wisp. So like I just kind of do this and then I might add a couple lines on here. This is more of a realistic looking tree. Maybe I want that one to go out a little bit longer. And then again, I'm going to go and I'm going to add one more up here. And remember, the branches, they usually curl up. They tend to curl up. And again, if you need to keep it upside down, feel free to do so, or you can turn it right side up, whatever works for you. And then I'll turn it around this way. For the next 3 trees, I'm going to show you some kind of fun techniques. This one, we're going to start at the top of the paper. And you want to make sure the heel of your hand is on your paper. And I like to kind of tilt my paper, but I'm going to start at the top. And I'm just going to go like this. You might get bigger, you might get smaller. And then I kind of stop. My next one is gonna be these fun little lines with little polka dots or balls on the end. That's what I usually call them. So I'm gonna make a little circle here. And I'm gonna make just different lines coming out of here. And some might have a filled in circle, some may not. Now with this one, I noticed I probably should have spaced out my trees a little bit more because they're getting a little close together, but that's okay. They're just fun and whimsical. And then the next one, we're gonna make lines that just come out of our tree, and they are going to run perpendicular, which means if this is my tree, they would run this way. And you might need to move your paper. So I'm gonna show you how to do that. I start at the top and I go straight up. And then I'm gonna I'm gonna turn my paper this way and I'm gonna make them go perpendicular now. So that means running straight this way. And again, I know I didn't have a ton of room because I was worried about going into this tree, but I guess I could make these lines a little bit longer so it didn't look so funny, but they're trees, they're not gonna be perfect, and that's okay. And then we're gonna start with the coloring part. All right, guys, so for the painting portion of the folk art trees, what we are going to do is, again, if you're with me or you have paint, you're gonna want to use your watercolor paint, and we are going to basically have our water nearby, have our paper towel, and we are going to outline around the tree and then just paint it in. Now I am using printer paper, so I can't put a lot of water on here because it will make a hole, but that is how you would do that. And then I'm gonna show you another one, how we do the next one. And I'm also gonna show those of you who are at home and maybe you don't have paint, what you could use as well instead of paint. You can use markers, and I'll show you that in a minute. Again, I just outline it and then kind of paint it in. And again, if you're just using like regular white paper at home, like printer paper, you just want to make sure you're not going over it too much because you'll put a hole right in it and you don't want that. So now, let's say I don't have paint and I only have markers. As long as your markers are washable or they're like Crayola and they're not permanent, you can very easily use a marker. And again, you would do kind of the same thing. I'm gonna skip one just because of, I don't want it to get wet over there. So again, I just outline and I would color it in. Now, let's say you don't have a paintbrush at home. I have taken some Q-tips and taped them together, and I am going to use that as my paintbrush. But if you have a paintbrush, you just need to dip it in water. But again, I just color my tree in, the outline of it, as best I can. And now I'm gonna take that Q-tip, dip it in the water, and that's gonna be my paintbrush. So again, in a minute, you will start to see like the green starts to turn into paint, but you don't wanna push too hard because I can already tell I'm gonna probably end up with a hole if I'm not careful. So again, as you can see, it's kind of bleeding out to the edges. That's because the water makes the ink turn into a kind of a paint. And then for this middle one, just because it's in the middle and I happen to have paint right by me, I'm just gonna finish it off. But that is how you would do your whimsical trees. Or your folk art trees, I should say. Ta-da!